This story is about a relationship that no one talks about, but the heartbeats tell everything. A hidden bond between a mother-in-law and son-in-law. Let's see how this story unfolds. The mother-in-law was watering the plants in the courtyard. The son-in-law came out. His gaze lingered. The mother-in-law looked at her in surprise, saying that it's not a good habit to stare at her. The son-in-law smiled at her and said, "There's a certain beauty that doesn't let your eyes wander." The mother-in-law controlled her heart and looked away. After a while, the mother-in-law was sitting in the kitchen, cutting vegetables. The son-in-law slowly approached her and took her hand. The knife had fallen from her hand. Their hands were clasped. The mother-in-law, alarmed, said, "Son, this isn't right." But she couldn't free her hand from his. After a while, the son-in-law let go of her mother-in-law's hand and went to his room. By nightfall, the rain was pounding. The mother-in-law was standing on the balcony. The son-in-law came and stood behind her. He said, "I wish this moment could stop." The mother-in-law turned back and said, "Your words are moving with your hand." The son-in-law came closer to his mother-in-law. There was a silent attraction in the raindrops. He gazed at her intently for a while. Then he went to his room. One night, when the power went out, the mother-in-law was sitting on the cot. The son-in-law came closer and sat down and said, "The dark cannot hide the secrets of the heart." He held her hand. The mother-in-law trembled but didn't back down. One day, the mother-in-law sat there thinking about such things. She was combing her hair in front of the mirror when the son-in-law slowly entered the room and said, "I wish time could stop here." The mother-in-law said with feigned anger, "Don't talk too much." The son-in-law smiled and said, "If this is a crime, I will commit it again and again." The mother-in-law smiled at him. Her daughter had gone to her friend's house today. Only the mother-in-law and son-in-law were at home. The mother-in-law was packing clothes. The son-in-law came in and placed his hand on the clothes. Their hands touched. Their eyes met. The mother-in-law wanted to look away, but she couldn't. This game continued between them. One day, the daughter said with a smile, "Mom, you and my husband have a deep friendship." Mother and son-in-law looked at each other, but kept their lips closed. But a secret was hidden in their eyes. One day, the daughter had gone to the market. The mother-in-law was sitting on the sofa. Her son-in-law came closer and sat down on the sofa. He said, "Your fragrance fills the whole room." The mother-in-law woke up startled and said, "Stop talking nonsense." But her heart was pounding wildly. A little while later, the mother-in-law was washing dishes in the kitchen when the son-in-law came up behind her and grabbed her hand. The mother-in-law turned and looked at him. There was mischief in her eyes, a flutter in her heart. The next day, it started raining again. The son-in-law gave her an umbrella. The umbrella was too small. The two had come closer to each other. The mother-in-law, a little shy, said, "Son, this is wrong." The son-in-law said, "If it is wrong, then why is the heart not agreeing?" The mother-in-law remained silent after listening to the son-in-law. She lowered her eyes. It was night time. The daughter was asleep in the room. The mother was sitting in the courtyard. The son-in-law came to her and said, "Amma, I am not able to sleep." The mother-in-law said, "Leave all this." The son-in-law held his mother-in-law's hand. He said, "Even if I want to, I cannot leave." The mother-in-law did not free her hand. The mother-in-law was standing in front of the mirror again. The son-in-law slowly came closer. He said, "There is something in your eyes which cannot be expressed in words." Hearing the son-in-law's words, the mother-in-law averted her gaze. The son-in-law placed his hand on her shoulder. The mother-in-law's lips started trembling but she could not refuse. One day, the daughter was busy in the kitchen. The mother-in-law and son-in-law were sitting in the courtyard. The son-in-law said softly, "This relationship will never be expressed in words. But it will always live on in the heartbeats." The mother-in-law lowered her gaze and shook her head. The mother-in-law and son-in-law didn't describe their relationship in words. But everything was revealed in their eyes. This relationship will never be expressed in words. But it will always live on in the heartbeats. Friends, if you like this story, stay tuned for the next bold and romantic story. Friends, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Take great care of yourself. See you in the next video. Music.